They say on one app that they are letting your followers know you have started a live video. We are active in one place, active in two places, active in 3, active in 4, active in 5, and active in 6. Hope everybody's having a great start to your day or continuation of your day, whatever time of day it is when you are checking in. What we're going to talk about here today is the era that we are in now. It is no longer the permission era. It is now the collaboration era. I'm going to explain what that means, why, how it could possibly affect you, and what you could do about it. Wes Cottle, what's going on? Appreciate it. So that's what we're going to talk about here today, that the permission era is over and the collaboration era has now begun. And this applies to all of you. This has an effect on everyone, whether you are an athlete, a student, an entrepreneur, you are climbing a corporate ladder, working in a professional space, whether you work in the government, or you're kind of in between situations right now, just trying to figure out what you're going to do and where you're going to go and how you're going to do it. We're going to talk about all of that here this morning. Again, the permission era over the collaboration era. So let me explain to you, just as an introduction to this. The permission era was an industry based on somebody literally giving you permission to do what you want to do. When it came to, and I'm targeting this specifically to entrepreneurs, but the principles are going to apply to everybody. So the permission era was when, if you wanted to do something, you had to get permission from somebody to do whatever it is that you wanted to do, again, to run your business. For example, somebody would give you permission to market to them by joining your email list. Someone joins your email list, that's literally called permission marketing. If someone follows you on social media, that is a form of permission marketing, because you are, by following someone, you are giving them permission to share with you whatever it is that they want to say. So if you're following someone on TikTok, you are giving them permission to show in your feed. You're giving TikTok permission through that person to show in your feed everything that person decides to put out. That is permission marketing. In the book publishing world, for example, I didn't publish my first book till I've been online for about 5 years. My first book came out in 2010. I was online in like 2005. And I had the idea of publishing a book way before that, but I didn't do it because I knew that the process was you had to go through a traditional publisher, which means you had to have a book agent. And you had to basically sell yourself to the agent. Then the agent would go and try to sell you to the publisher. And I knew it was a big back and forth red tape type of process. And I'm not a big fan of red tape, which is why I don't do a ton of corporate work. I like working directly with individuals. I like talking directly to check writers who don't have to go through other people in order to make a decision. That's just a personal thing for me. And I knew that going the traditional publishing route was probably not going to be for me because of that. So I wrote a lot of my books through my own company. I have done traditional publishing still because they came to me. I didn't go to them. But the point being that back in the day, before, let's say, companies like Amazon were out, if you wanted to put a book out, you had to get permission from somebody, i.e. the publisher, to put your book out. If they didn't want to publish your book, you could not put out a book. If you wanted to have a radio show, you had to go to a radio company or some media company, and someone had to agree or give you permission to have your own radio show. And if you didn't get their permission, you couldn't have a show. Nowadays, what do we have? We got podcasting. Do you need anyone's permission to start a podcast? No. Podcasting has created a new era where you don't need anyone's permission to have what used to be the radio. Some of you don't even remember what the radio was. If you wanted a TV show back in the day, you had to go to a network and you had to somehow, some way get in the room, somehow, some way have a conversation to get someone to approve. Yes, you were going to have a TV show like Oprah or Phil Donahue or Montel Williams back in the day. You had to get someone's permission to have a TV show. Nowadays, if you want to broadcast yourself through video, do you need anyone's permission? Of course not. Like what I'm doing right now, I don't need anyone's permission to be on Rumble, YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. I can have my own TV show through my own volition, and I don't have to go through anybody I don't have to get anybody's permission. So I'm giving you these examples here. I didn't even get into my point yet of helping you all understand that it used to be, and those of you old enough to remember know this, or your parents can tell you, that it used to be you had to get permission to pretty much do anything that you wanted to do in terms of putting yourself out there and putting your work out there. And if you didn't get that permission, you couldn't do it. And another example is playing basketball. My background's in basketball. I played professional sports for almost 10 years, and I got known on the internet through putting videos on YouTube. There was a time when if you wanted to play basketball for a living, and I was like in between these two eras where there was only one way to go. There was one ladder that you had to climb, which was playing in the street. Then you played at your high school, then you played in college, and then you played pro, or at least you hoped to be able to climb up that ladder. There were no other options. Street or recreational, then it was high school, college, pro. That was the only way you could be a basketball player and make money. But what happened around 2005, this is the time I started to get known on the internet. What happened was now you could put videos on social media, which came to be a thing, starting with YouTube, and you could make money through playing basketball, but you weren't on a team. You didn't sign a contract with anybody, and you didn't even have to play against anybody. All you had to do was just go into a gym or to the park and do something with a basketball, and you could make money. So now you could have a career, which makes you a professional because you're making money doing a thing, but you didn't have to climb that ladder. So the ladder's changed. Now me, the interesting thing with me is, again, I was in between these eras. So I was climbing the ladder. I wanted to climb the ladder from recreational, high school, college to pro, which I did. But at the same time, the internet came around. So I was doing both. I was doing both at the same time, making money from being on the internet where I didn't need anyone's permission. At the same time, making money being a pro where I needed somebody's permission. And one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur and really started to triple down on entrepreneurship is because I didn't like the fact that I had to get someone's permission every time I wanted to do something. So what we're going to talk about here today is that you no longer have to wait to get permission from anybody or agreement from anyone or acceptance from anyone to put yourself out there. And many of you I know many of you are watching me now, but some of you are active users on these apps where you publish yourself as well. Crespo Realty, good morning. If you're on the side of publishing as well, you understand this. Just by utilizing an app like social media, you may subconsciously get this. I'm going to make it real conscious for you. I'm going to explain it in detail here today and help you all understand that this era of getting permission, even though there are places in life where, yes, you still need to get permission, or if you choose to, you need to get someone's permission. I'm not saying it's completely dead, but I am saying it's dead. I'm saying both at the same time. I'm saying it's not completely dead, but it's pretty much dead. I'm going to explain why the collaboration era is the thing you need to be focusing on now, even though there may be places where you still need to get permission. You should be leveraging and pushing yourself into the collaboration era. And I'm going to give you a bunch of examples here so all of you understand how this works as I get through my points. So for those of you who don't know me, or those of you who do, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm the author of 35 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we extract the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world, and we translate those over to the professional world to help people like yourselves who are not athletes, or maybe you used to be an athlete, but you're not one right now, to perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce more results. That's our focus. Performance done consistently to produce results. That's the bottom line of what we do. We have a lot of different frameworks and tools and strategies that we use to help you get there, but that's the bottom line. You want to know what we're really about is those 3 things: performance, consistency, and results. So getting into this, I got 3 points I'm going to share here. And by the way, if you have a question or comment on anything that I say, you can just post it in the comments on whatever app you're watching me on. I'll address all the comments at the end. I have 3 points I'm going to get through. All right, number 1. The new era, as I already told you, is the collaboration era. Now, what does the collaboration era mean? What is collaboration? Most of you have heard the word. You'll know what it means. Collaboration is when 2 or more entities work together to get things done. Now, I'm going to explain to you all how you are already involved in a collaboration era and how you need to start, even if you're not thinking about it actively. I'm going to explain to you all why you need to start thinking about it and doing it more on purpose, even if you're doing it right now by accident. And by the way, all of you who's watching me, you're already doing it by accident, but I'm going to explain how to do it on purpose. So the collaboration era, as I just said, is when people or entities, because it doesn't have to be one person, it can be a company, they come together, join forces, and the point is to achieve mutually beneficial results, because you're not going to collaborate with someone if you don't believe that the collaboration is going to be beneficial to you. You do it because there's something that you're going to get out of it, right? This is what you want to get out of your outcome. So, and again, I'll address questions at the end, by the way. So while you can still do things like have an email list, you should have an email list. You can reach a bunch of people through a site like these apps that we're on right now, whichever one you're watching me on, or name any social media platform. You can reach a bunch of people without them reading they don't have to go to their inbox. They can just open up one of these apps and they can see you immediately. And you don't need to go through anything or anyone in order to do it. All you have to do is put your message out, and the platform has gathered all the people, and they will share your message with as many people as they want to, or as many people as you're willing to pay to get your message shared by. So Let's look at one of these social media applications to help you all understand this, that you are collaborating just by using these apps. So if you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, you are collaborating with those apps. Understand this. So if I put a post on TikTok, for example, I'm in a collaboration with TikTok, because what does TikTok have? TikTok has a billion users, however many people have a TikTok application or a TikTok account. When I publish some content, or like this live stream I'm doing right now, or a clip from one of my masterclass episodes or from one of my speeches, and I put it on TikTok, I'm creating the content. TikTok is providing the audience. That's a collaboration, because some of you who are on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, you never heard of me until you just happen to come across something that I did on this app. So that's a collaboration, because what Instagram provided was the eyeballs of someone like yourself who otherwise never would have known that I existed. What I provided was the content that you wouldn't have known about had I not put it out. But because we both met on TikTok, or we met on Instagram, or we met on YouTube, or we met on Facebook, now I have a new person who knows about me that otherwise would not have known about me. So that's a collaboration. I got something, they got something, you got something. That's a win-win-win. What did TikTok get? They got a user putting content on their app, which makes it more relevant because of the network effect. The more people use an app, the more relevant the app becomes. What you got was you learned about something that is useful to you, and that's why you decided to listen or follow or like or comment or whatever. And what I got is now I have more people who know about my message and the value that I'm putting out into the world. And this is what we're all doing in this economy. You notice that collaboration? That's a collaboration between three entities: the publisher, the consumer, and the application. So every time you get on social media, you are collaborating, even if you don't know that you're collaborating. So now that I explained it, now all of you understand that this is an active collaboration that you're doing right now just by using these apps. So all you got to do is put your material out, and the platform has gathered all the people. And again, they share it with as many people as they want. So those of you who publish, hopefully you all understand this, that just because you post something and you got a certain number of followers does not mean all your followers don't see everything you publish. I don't think most of you, maybe some people don't know that, but that's the thing. So if you're on Facebook and you have a Facebook page with 10,000 followers or likes or whatever they call it, and you post something on Facebook, they don't show that post to all 10,000 people. It doesn't come up on 10,000 feeds. This is why you could have 10,000 followers, you post something on Facebook and it gets like 18 likes. Like, how I got 10,000 followers, I got 18 likes. Is because they don't show it to everybody. What Facebook does is they basically throttle how many people see your post, and they tell you, if you want more people to see your post, you got to pay us. So this is the flip side of this. I won't even say it's a negative thing. It's just the flip side of the game is that Facebook decided, because it didn't used to be a case. Those of you who've been around long enough, I'll explain to you what happened. It used to be that if you had 10,000 followers on Facebook and you posted something on your feed, that they would show that post to all 10,000 people. I mean, it would come up in their feed. Now, it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to watch it or look at it, but it will come up in the feed of 10,000 people because you had 10,000 followers. What Facebook did, they changed the game. Excuse me. They basically put a toll booth in there. Y'all know what a toll booth is, right? When you're on the turnpike and you got to pay a toll to keep driving. What they did is put a toll booth on your followers, quote unquote, your followers. And they said, all right, you got 10,000 followers. You just posted something, but we're only going to show your post to 1,000 of your 10,000 people. The other 9,000 people, if you want them to see your post, you have to pay us money so that they can see your stuff. And Work on Your Game University is a place where you can work with me directly. Somebody asked me something like that in the comments. Work on Your Game University. I'll tell you about that at the end. It's just a link in my bio. So this is what all the social media apps did, is that they put a toll booth on your reach. If you want your stuff to be seen, you got to pay us money so that we'll show your stuff to the other 90% of your followers. So if you just post something and don't pay, organic, only about 10% of your followers are going to see it. And then maybe if it goes viral or something like that, you'll get lucky and we'll let more people see it. But that's what they did. But that's their business model. That's how they make money. So I'm not even mad at it, but y'all should understand that. So when you're looking at somebody else's social media and you're like, how you got all those followers, but only this number of people saw your stuff, is because they put a toll booth on it. And also, we all understand these apps all have their own rules and the things they like and the things they don't like. You talk about certain subjects on certain apps, they're not going to let it get seen because they don't want it to get seen, because there are people too. There are people who run these applications. It's not just some completely objective thing. You talk about ABC topic on a XYZ app, they are not going to let that topic spread because they don't want you to talk about it. It happened to me on TikTok like 3 weeks ago. I used some language more than once in my live, and they basically kicked me off the live and banned me from using the live stream on TikTok for 3 days because I used some quote unquote hate speech language. I don't even know what I said because they didn't tell me what I said. And it's an automated system. So it's not like you can talk to a person. So all you need to understand that when you're looking at people who are on social, don't think that what you're seeing is just a reflection of objective reality, because you can't have objective reality with humans, because human beings are highly subjective. The point being, as I continue with what I'm saying, is that these apps, you are collaborating with them. And a collaboration, by the way, folks, doesn't mean that there can't be a money exchange. A collaboration, a financial exchange is a form of collaboration. Yes, politics. Everything is politics. So you put 3 people in a room, you get politics. All right, that's the same. So politics is just people doing things to protect their own interests. And these applications have their own self-interest. Facebook has interests, TikTok has interests, YouTube, Instagram, Rumble, X, they all have their own interests. They all have things that they want. They have things that they don't want. And you got to know what game you're in when you get on these applications and what you should say and what you shouldn't say. Because if you say the wrong thing on the wrong app, they are not going to let that message get out. That's how it works. And I learned that on TikTok. There's certain things I can't say. I remember I said the name of a guy. Some of you know his name. I'm not going to say his name because they might kick me off for saying it. Is the guy who lives, he lives overseas. He has a shaved head. He used to be a kickboxer, and he got kicked off all the social apps a couple of years ago. Y'all know who I'm talking about. He has these allegations about some things that he allegedly did. Y'all know who I'm talking about. He's in his 30s, and he has a brother, and he always does videos with his shirt off. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm not saying his name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I had a video. This is an interesting thing. I had a video where I mentioned him. It was one of my longer videos. I was driving when I recorded. Y'all see those videos when I'm driving and I'm talking. So I had that video and I mentioned this guy's name. I said, I heard this guy say XYZ. And then I started talking about what he said and explaining why I agreed with it. And then we put the clip on TikTok. We put it on all the apps. We put it on every app. But TikTok took the video down and said, he said something that you mentioned in that video violates our hate speech rules. Therefore, we took the video down. And I'm like, y'all took the video down because I said the guy's name. Y'all know who I'm talking about, right? Yes, that guy. Yo, you got it right. That guy. So I said his name and they took the video down just because I said his name. I wasn't even saying anything about him. I just said, he said this. I was giving him credit for what he said because I liked what he said. And then I built on it and they took the whole video down because I said his name. And I'm letting you all know, helping you understand that just because you're on these apps does not mean you had a freedom to do or say whatever you want. You don't have free speech on these apps. You have free speech as far as free as they want you to be. So this is why, even though this is the collaboration era, you need to be careful with whom you collaborate, because they have their own rules and their own agendas, and you need to understand that agenda, because if you violate their agenda, they're not going to let you put your material out. Okay, so be careful. So let me continue with what I'm saying here, because you want to also, even though you're collaborating with these applications, folks, you don't want your whole business to be built on this collaboration, because they can remove the floor from underneath your feet anytime they feel like it. All right, so what if they just decided, you know what, you said that guy's name, you know what, Dre, we're going to delete your account just because you said his name. They could have did it, and there's nothing I can do about it because I don't own this app. So again, even though you're collaborating, does not mean you should just build your house there. All right, don't build your house on sand. All right, there's a parable in the Bible, those of you may know about it, that there's building a house on rock and building a house on sand. When you build your entire business on a social media application, you are building a house on sand for the very fact that they can remove you or kick you off or shadow ban you or just decide that they don't want your stuff to get seen just because they decided. Just arbitrarily, they can just decide we're kicking you off. And any of you knows people who actively use social media understands that a lot of these decisions are made in an automated process, like meaning you're not talking, it's not like a human being decided to kick you off. It's just an automated process. Like the thing that happened to me on TikTok a few weeks ago, it was automated that they have an AI bot that's listening to everything that I'm saying. And I said a certain word like 2 or 3 times, and they immediately ended my live and kicked me off for 3 days. That wasn't a human that did that. That's a system that did that. Therefore, when the system kicked me off, there's no human that I could talk to and say, hey, what's the problem here? There's no person. They just said you're banned for 3 days, and that was it. There was no recourse. So what if I built my whole business on TikTok and then they just kicked me off for 3 days? So what, they kicked me off permanently. Now what happened to my business? My entire business just went away just like that. So even though I'm telling you that we're in an era of collaboration, you need to be careful about who you're collaborating with and what are the terms of that collaboration. Because when you get on a social media application, ladies and gentlemen, they make the rules. You need them more than they need you. And I'm pausing there because I want that point to sink in. And this is especially important for those of you who are building your business or have built your business through publishing on any app. You need them more than they need you, because how many users do they have? And how many other ways do you have to reach that many people besides them? Like, they don't need you. So if you disappear, if you died today, the app's not going away because you died. They still got a billion more people besides you. But if they kick you off, what are you going to do? All right, they got way more options than you have. Okay. And again, I'm not even saying this to knock these apps. I use them, as you can see. I use all these apps. I publish on them all the time. Any of you who follows me, you see how often my stuff comes out, right? So I publish on these apps. I use them, but at the same time, I understand the deal. I'm just making sure y'all understand the deal. Don't build your businesses completely on these. Use them. Don't let them use you. Use them, get people to know about your stuff, and then get them somewhere other than just here. Not everybody's going to do it, but invite people to go other places besides just there. By the way, click the link in my bio for Work on Your Game University so y'all can connect with me in a way other than these apps, just in case they all decide to kick me off like they did that guy that I mentioned a few minutes ago, whose name I can't say, because if I say his name, they're going to kick me off. So this is what I mean. So imagine that happened to you. What you going to do if your whole business is built on that? So anyway, as I continue, that's kind of a tangent that I went on. But they have the people, you got the content, which is a good thing. That's a good part of the collaboration. You provide content, they provide people, eyeballs, and some of those people might become your fans. They may become your customers. They might become your clients. This is a great thing. Now, again, your job is to get those people off of the app so that you don't have to go through an app to connect with your people. Because you need to go through an app to connect with your people, then that app owns you and they own your business, because you can't make a connection without going through them. And they understand that. And it's the reason why Facebook starts charging you for people to see your stuff. Facebook says, all right, we'll put your post out, but we're not going to show it to all your fans. We're going to show it to the ones that you're willing to pay us for. And if you won't pay us, we're going to show it to a few people, and everybody else is not going to see it. All right, that's the deal. And I did whole lives on this subject already, so I don't want to go. I'm not going to go any further on it, but hopefully y'all all get the point. Moving on to point number 2. What we're talking about here today is how the permission era is over, and we're now in the era of collaboration, which is what all of you need to be doing. I just explained to you how you're doing it unintentionally. Many of you are unintentionally collaborating. If you have a social media account, even one, you are collaborating every time you log into these apps. Now, what I'm explaining here today is that you want to be collaborating on purpose and doing it intentionally and not doing it by accident, which many of you may be doing. Number 2, great thing about the collaboration era is that you don't need anybody's permission. You don't need permission to do things and put yourself out there. You don't need permission to have a radio show these days. It's called podcasting. You don't need permission to have a TV show. It's called YouTube or whatever other app. You don't need permission to write a book. You can write your own book and you can self-publish your book. You don't need permission to just put yourself out there, period. You don't need permission to even make money. You can make money on the internet right now without leaving your house and without getting off your couch, just from your phone. Now, you can put material out there. Somebody likes it. You create a product or service, put a price tag on it. You can go set up a payment processor app through like Stripe or Square or PayPal or Cash App or Apple Pay or Venmo or any one of these apps. And immediately you can be making money by this afternoon. You don't need anyone's permission, and you don't even have to leave the house or even talk to a live human being to do it. That's the great thing about the collaboration era, is that it's very easy to get in the game. Now, what you do once you get in the game is a whole different story. And that's the reason why we have Work on Your Game University. But to get in the game is easy. Anybody can get in the game. Now, you can be 12 years old, getting in the game. And this is something that our parents didn't have access to. So though all of you, if you're under the age of 50, your parents didn't have the same freedom and access and opportunity that we have these days. Like my parents, if they want to start a business in the 70s or the 80s, you can just start a business. I mean, you could, but you had to know somebody, you had to have a physical location, and you had to have money to start a business. You couldn't just start a business for nothing. These days, you can start a business with no money and immediately be profitable on day one. Back in the days, you couldn't do that. You had to put a whole bunch of money in. You had to get licenses. You had to get paperwork. You had to have, again, usually a physical location, because the internet wasn't the internet. You had to do all of that before you made $1. You were in the red before you made any money, and there was no guarantee you can make money. And you can only sell your stuff to people who knew about you, which meant you either could only sell locally. So if you're in Philadelphia, you had to sell to people in Philadelphia. If you're in Miami, you can only sell to people in Miami. Or you had to spend money on advertising to get people who were not local to know that you existed. You had to do all of that before you made $1. These days, you don't have to do none of that. So you can't compare. I'm just putting this out there because it's something that I've thought about and talked about in the past. You can't compare what you're doing business-wise to what your parents did or did not do, because it was not nearly as easy for them as it is for you. it's easy for you to get into the game these days. Back then, it was not easy to get in the game. So just want to make sure I'm putting that out there for all of you to understand. So you can put yourself out there and do anything that you love to do and pretty much make money from it. I remember I was working at a gym in like 2006. I was in between jobs playing ball, and the manager, it was two managers, one guy named Gary, the other guy named Will. And this is like a corporate gym. And they were both talking about, because at that point for me, I knew I was going to go back to playing basketball. It was just a matter of time before I got the next call and the phone rang again, which eventually it did. But I worked there for like 6 months. And I remember one time we were just talking about careers and life and what people wanted to do with their lives. And Will, who was the assistant manager, he was like, well, I'm an artist. Like, I guess he drew or whatever kind of art, painting, something like that. He was like, I'm an artist, but there's no money in art. And in 2006, he was right. I mean, it's not like it was impossible to make money from art, but it was very difficult. You had to go through gatekeepers to make money as an artist in 2016. And Gary, the other manager, he was like, yeah, all the stuff that I love to do doesn't make money. I don't even know what his things were, but he might have been right. But that was the thing back then. And any of you who was an adult, let's say you're over the age of 35, 20 or so years ago, there were certain things that if you loved them, there was not an easy or simple way to make money doing them, such as being a painter or being an artist or being a rapper or a singer. To make money doing it, you had to go through a whole bunch of layers, and someone had to approve of you in order for you to get your shot. And if you didn't go through those layers and get approval from somebody, you couldn't get in the game and you couldn't make money. And therefore, you might have all this talent as a singer or a rapper or a dancer or a spoken word artist or a painter or you can draw really well, but you couldn't make money doing it if you didn't get someone's approval. Nowadays, you can do it again. You can start doing it this morning, and by 4 o'clock this afternoon, you already got a sale. And you ain't had to put any money in to get started. You get on Etsy and sell art, right? You can get on SoundCloud and sell music. You get on YouTube and build an audience and never sign a recording contract. You can make all your money through just posting your stuff on YouTube, build up your fan base, and start selling your album through YouTube. All right. Again, this is all collaboration. Again, you get on SoundCloud, you're collaborating with SoundCloud because they're giving you the platform. You get on YouTube, you're collaborating with YouTube. You get on Etsy, you're collaborating with Etsy. So understand, when I say collaboration, I don't necessarily mean a human being. It can be a platform. So when you get on these platforms, you are collaborating with them because they have the people, you got the content. That's why they call it UGC, stands for user generated content. Instagram does not create a whole lot of content. But if you go on Instagram and follow the Instagram account on Instagram, you notice that they don't post that often. Most of the content on Instagram is created by who? It's created by people like me and you. We provide the content, they provide the people. That's the collaboration. All right. And if you want access to those people, keep providing content, you get access to people. So in the permission era, again, you had to be accepted in order to get in the game. In the collaboration era, you don't. I'll give you another example. As I told you, when I was coming up as a basketball player, there was a ladder to be climbed. The ladder was you play recreational, then you play high school, college, and you play pro. And if you wanted to make money playing basketball, that was the only way to do it. But then these other ways started coming out. All right. So now if you wanted to play, let's say, street ball, back then, even let's say in the 90s, you wanted to play street ball, you would play ball in the street, but there's no money to be made playing ball on the street, generally speaking. Now, I know you got like the white men can't jump thing, where you can bet money on games and stuff like that. But generally, there wasn't a simple way to make money playing ball on the street. Then there started to be a thing. All right, that started to be a thing. Now, if you're a basketball player coming up, let's say somebody's 10 years old right now. You got a 10-year-old kid who loves basketball right now. He might not make it to the NBA. He might not be good enough to make it to the NBA. He might not be tall enough to make it to the NBA, but he could still have a full-time career using basketball if he just gets on TikTok and he makes funny videos, or he goes to the parks and he plays people one-on-one and beats them, and he has some kind of gimmick or something that goes along with it that makes him interesting. He can have a whole bunch of fans through YouTubing and TikToking, and he could be 5 feet 9 inches tall, not tall enough to play in the NBA, but have a whole bunch of fans. He can be making $10,000, $20,000 a month just from that. This is what the collaboration era allows for. Whereas again, in the permission era, if he didn't get permission, that was never happening. And he can have all this talent and then not be able to use it. And I've known plenty of people who've had a lot of talent at a thing, but for whatever reason, they never got on because they were not willing to climb the ladders. Because I've known people who are singers, rappers, athletes, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to climb the ladders. I knew athletes whose careers got derailed because they didn't want to climb the ladder. In America, if you want to climb the ladder in sports, you got to be a good student. You got to be a passable student. You don't have to be good. You just got to be adequate. Like, you got to go to class and you got to at least get a C average, a 2.0, so you can stay eligible so you can play your sport in college. I know a lot of people who had enough talent that they should have been in the NFL or the NBA, but they didn't make it because they were a terrible student, not because they lacked skill on the court or on the field. And they were better than, I would say many of them were even better than me. But because I was willing to climb the ladder, meaning I was doing enough work to at least stay eligible, I could play my sport, get better, and get my opportunity. So a lot of people lost their opportunity because they didn't want to climb the ladder. I knew singers who just didn't want to do the grind to get on. Y'all remember when Puff Daddy had the Making the Band? Remember that Making the Band thing he had on MTV? So Making the Band, when he did it a couple times. He did it with I think he did it 3 times. I know he had that group called Day 26. He had the girl group called Danity Kane. I think he had another one called Dream. I don't know if that was all from the same show. But on that show, a lot of people may not, if you remember, you might remember this, that they would do scouting missions. So the same way that American Idol did it, they would come to a city. They would announce, all right, we're going on tour. We're going to go to New York. We're going to go to Philadelphia. We're going to go to LA. We're going to go to Miami. We're going to Atlanta, Detroit. And they would go to all these big cities and they would have an open casting call. Excuse me. And you would show up to the casting call and you would rap or sing or dance or whatever your thing was. And if you were any good, you would get to the next one, next one, next one. You work your way up. I knew people who were good rappers or singers, but they didn't want to show up to the casting call. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to stand in line for 6 hours for one day just to get their chance to sing for 2 minutes and maybe get their chance to move forward. That's climbing the ladder. Whereas if that same person had that same talent today and the same age, well, you can just get on YouTube and start singing and get yourself known. And, oh, by the way, let me be clear. I knew people who I told to do that, and they still were too lazy to do that too. So some people are just lazy. I mean, let's also put that out there. The collaboration era does make it easier, but that doesn't mean there's no work. So let me make sure everybody heard me. All right, the collaboration era does make it easier to put yourself on. That does not mean there's no work involved. You still have to do work. So y'all know Mr. Beast, right? The most popular, famous guy on YouTube these days with 10 billion followers, whatever he has. He still has to do work. I've heard him interviewed. I've heard clips from his interviews, and it's still work that you got to do. He just does his work in a certain way that leads him to being as popular as he is, but there's still work. So don't be fooled into thinking there's no work. So there's still effort that needs to go into the process. I mean, that's why it's called work on your game. And in basketball, again, you can go into the gym, an empty gym with a camera, and start putting yourself out there immediately. A podcast, again, you can put yourself on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You don't need to get on a radio network. Moving on to point number 3. And I'll address questions at the end, by the way, if you have any. In this, and what we're talking about here today is how the permission era is over. We're now in the collaboration era. Number 3, given everything that I've shared with you so far, your job right now is to go out and find an audience of people who wants what you have to offer, and then look for ways that you can collaborate with others who have already identified and gathered these audiences. Let me give you an example. So one of them I've already talked about a lot, which is social media. Social media has an audience of people who are interested in what you have. It's not everybody, it's some of the people. So when you get on TikTok, they got 1 billion followers. That doesn't mean all 1 billion people on TikTok want to hear what you have to say. But if there's 10,000 who do want to hear what you have to say, it is your job to make sure that they hear it so that they know that you exist. That's your job. Your job is not to sell to everybody. Your job is to sell to people who want what you have. I call it selling to your buyers. Not everybody's interested in what I'm talking about right now, but the people who are interested, is my job to make sure that you know that I'm saying it so that you're like, oh, I want to hear this guy. And if somebody else is doing something completely different, they have a completely different audience. And sometimes there's an overlap, but your job is to find the people who already have what you're looking for. So social media is one way to do it. Another way is going and finding an actual human who already has your audience. So this is something that over here in our company, we do this all the time. So I appear on a lot of other people's platforms. So I appear on people's shows who might be talking about things like personal development, professional development, sales, utilizing social media, marketing yourself, mindset, discipline, confidence, things like that. Transitioning from being an athlete to being an entrepreneur, or just plain entrepreneurship. I appear on people's platforms who have shows that are based on these subjects. And the reason why I'm naming those subjects is because these are subjects that I can talk about with a level of expertise that will be valuable to their audiences. So let's check the win-win-win here. I win because I get to expose my message to an audience of people who otherwise might not have known that I existed. So that's my victory. The host's victory. So if I go on somebody else's show, let's say there's somebody here named Mike. He has a show about entrepreneurship. So I'll go on Mike's show. Mike's audience now knows me. So I got something. Mike looks good because number one, he has a show where he interviews people, so he needs another guest. So I provided that. I solved his problem of needing his next guest for this week's show. I solved that problem for him. And also I make Mike look good to his audience because his audience is going to say, damn, Mike, I never heard of Dre, but now that you introduced me to him, I appreciate it. I'm going to listen to his stuff and I'm going to keep listening to your stuff, because the good thing about the collaboration era, folks, is that we're not competing. We're collaborating. So if someone comes on, if I go on someone's platform and a bunch of your fans start following me, that doesn't mean they got to stop following you. All right, they still follow you and they're following me because they can consume my stuff and consume your stuff because we're a little bit different, even though we may be aligned in some ways. So everybody wins. So there, Mike looks good because he got to introduce his fans to another person who can also provide them value. So that's a win for Mike. And the audience wins because now they're like, oh yeah, I like Mike's stuff. I like Dre's stuff too. So now they can add me to the list of people that they listen to, because all of you, think about it, you listen to more than one person. You don't follow just one person on social media. You don't subscribe to just one YouTube channel. You don't listen to just one rapper or singer, right? You listen to more than one thing. And the good thing is, and the good thing about the collaboration era that all of you should keep in mind is that customers are polygamous. Your customers and clients are polygamous, meaning that they are not just in a relationship just with you. They got relationships with a bunch of other people as well. And no matter how great your stuff is, they are always looking around at other things besides just you. Doesn't mean your stuff isn't great. It doesn't mean they don't appreciate it and will consume it, but they're always consuming other things besides you. So if you go to ask your customers, let's say you write a book, go ask your customers, have you ever bought anybody else's book besides mine? Of course, they're going to say yeah. So don't think it's just you. You have someone, if you're in the coaching business, a lot of your coaching clients, you're not the first person that they hired as a coach, and you might not be the last. All right, this is just what it is. So don't think that, again, people are just only dealing with you. They're dealing with other people as well, which is a good thing, because the same way that your customers are buying from other people, guess what? Other people's customers will buy from you. So that's the great thing about the collaboration era. And what we say in the sales and the marketing world, folks, is a buyer is a buyer. What does that mean? It means that people who buy are people who buy, and people who don't buy are people who don't buy. That's why the biggest jump that you make in business, folks, is from 0 to 1. And I'm talking in terms of dollars. The biggest jump you make in business is from $0 to $1. Because as soon as you get someone to open their wallet and spend $1 with you, they have now identified themselves as a buyer. And if someone will spend $1, they'll spend 50. They'll spend 50. They'll spend 500. They'll spend 500. They'll spend 5,000. But they have to identify themselves as a buyer first. And it doesn't mean you got to start with $1. But a buyer is a buyer. A non-buyer is a non-buyer. So speaking of social media, some of the people following you on social media are never going to buy anything from you, but they will follow all the stuff you put out for free. And there are also people who are following you on social media, but they never make themselves known, yet they will buy what you're selling. So be careful. Again, don't be fooled by everything that you see on social media. Followers are not necessarily buyers, and your buyers are not necessarily followers. And so I have people who are buyers in my world. We know exactly who our buyers are because we can see our customer list. Most of them are not always the people most active in the comments or saying stuff or liking posts, but they are active buyers. They open their wallet, but they don't really open their mouths in the comments. And those are two different things. So sometimes they are both, sometimes they're only one, and sometimes they're only the other. So you got to understand these things in business. And again, don't be fooled by the metrics you see on social media, because that's their business. That's Instagram and TikTok's business. That's not your business. What they care about should not be the same thing as what you care about. They care about the metrics. The metrics matter, but the real metric you should be measuring if you're running a business, folks, is receipts. All right. Business means receipts, meaning somebody pulling out their wallet and actually giving you money. Now, liking your post is not the same as giving you money. Do not be fooled and don't fall into that rabbit hole. So anyway, continuing on what I'm saying here on my third point, this is where all of this stuff here involves soft skills. Those of you who don't know what soft skills are, those are skills you can't measure or count. So a soft skill is communication skills, your ability to listen, your ability to empathize, your ability to make sure people understand where you're coming from and that you understand where they are coming from. These things that you can't measure, but people can feel them, and they do matter, especially when it comes to building relationships. Soft skills are very important. And soft skills are something, the reason why they're so important, especially in the world that we're in today, is that AI and technology cannot replace a soft skill. AI and technology can replace hard skills. Hard skills are stuff like, y'all see people put out the little clips. Y'all see the clips we put on social media of, I'll take a long video where I talk for an hour, like this one right here. actually, and we're going to put this into some software. The software is going to clip out the video and make little 1-minute clips. It's going to put the captions on it. It'll put little transitions if you want to, and it'll put it on social media. See, I don't need a human being to do that anymore because technology has replaced the human's ability to do that hard skill. But the soft skill of my ability to have a conversation with you and listen to you and understand you and communicate back to you what you're saying so that you understand that I understand. See, technology can't do that. That's a soft skill. I would suggest that you all invest in your soft skills because a computer cannot replace soft skills. Code cannot replace a soft skill. A computer will replace all your hard skills. Every hard skill you have is going to get replaced by a computer, almost all of them. I see construction workers going and building buildings here in Miami. There will come a time when there is a machine that can build a high-rise tower such that construction workers will no longer exist. That's coming. I would say within our lifetimes that you'll see buildings getting built by robots, and there's not going to be, you know how you see the construction workers with the hard hats and all that? Those will go away because they'll be using robots to build buildings. See, construction is a hard skill. Any hard skill, anything that you can visibly see with your eyes and you can count it and you can measure it, there will be technology that can do it better than human beings can do it, more efficiently, more effectively, and faster. But soft skills will not be replaced. That's why you got to invest in soft skills. Everybody hearing what I'm saying now? Invest in your soft skills. I'm going to do a live on soft skills probably sometime next week. I did a whole episode of my masterclass. I believe it was like 22 or 23 soft skills that I laid out. I'm going to do a whole live just explaining these because a lot of people don't understand this, and it's very important. It was 21 soft skills. I might do a whole live where I just lay out all 21. I might break it up into multiple days because that's going to take a while. That might be an hour plus live if I was to do that. But I will be talking about that. All right. So with all that out the way, let me recap these points. And anybody got a question or comment or anything I said, I'm going to address the comments in 1 second. So what we're talking about here today is the permission economy is over. It is now the collaboration era and the collaboration economy. And what that means is you no longer need to get permission from anybody or go through a gatekeeper to do what you want to do. You can put yourself out there yourself. That does not mean it is doesn't require work. It is easier and you have more access, but you still got to do the work. All right. So don't be confused. Number one, this collaboration era means entities are coming together and working together where everybody can mutually benefit. TikTok benefits because I'm providing content. The followers, let's say, benefit because they get something that's useful for them. I benefit because now I have new people who know about me and know that I exist. You can use that on every app. That's exactly how social media works. When you publish on social media, you are collaborating with the social media applications. Understand that that's a collaboration, but also understand that they make the rules because you need them more than they need you. So don't get fooled into thinking that you can just do whatever you want to do on a social media app. You cannot, because again, I gave you an example. I mentioned somebody's name who I shouldn't have mentioned. They kicked me off. I mentioned a word that I shouldn't have used. I don't even know what it was. They kicked me off. They make the rules because, again, they can replace you much more easily than you can replace them. So be careful when you use a social media app because, again, they make the rules. Number two, the great thing about the collaboration era is that you don't need anybody's permission. You can put yourself on relatively easy. If you want to write a book, you don't need to go through a publisher. You want to have a radio show, you can start a podcast. You want to have a TV show, you can get on YouTube. If you want to have fans, again, get on social media. You can build your own email list. You want to have something that you have complete control over. Again, at the same time, remember that you still have to do work because the challenge, the flip side of the collaboration era is that since it's so easy to get on, everybody's getting in. And because so many people are getting in, it's much harder to cut through and get noticed because there's so much stuff that people got to go through. Back in the days, if you watch TV, there was like 4 channels. It was like 5 channels. You knew exactly what was coming on TV and everybody knew about all the shows because there was only so many of them, but it's still a whole bunch of people, but there was only so many shows. Nowadays, how many channels do we have? How many channels? Back in the days on TV, we used to watch TV. When I would eat dinner with my family, my sister, my mom, my dad, we would eat dinner and the TV had like 5 channels. It was NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, Fox, and it was like one other like local channel. It was like 5 or 6 channels. So we knew about everything and we knew about everybody. Nowadays, how many channels we got? We take all the TV, cable got like 800 channels, right? Then you take every YouTube channel, you take every Rumble channel, every TikTok account. How many we got? Like billions, literally billions of channels. So it's harder to cut through these days simply because so many people are in the game. Whereas back in the day, it was only a few people in the game. It was harder to get in, but once you got in, everybody knew your name because there was only so many people. That's how Oprah got famous. Everybody knew Oprah because there's only 4 channels. So everybody knew her, even if you didn't watch the show. All right. Anyway, number 3, given this information, your job today is to go find who you can collaborate with that will help you. The number one thing I would point you towards, just on a simple level, is find entities who already have gathered an audience of people who you want to help and talk to them. That's it. An entity can be a social media application. An entity can be a conference or event. An entity can be another person. So if another person out there already has an audience of, let's say you're a weightlifter and you want to help people with weightlifting, you go find somebody else who already has an audience of people who are interested in weightlifting and ask them, hey, how can we work together? Or better yet, propose to them how you think y'all can work together. And if they say yes, now you can share your knowledge. Now their bodybuilder fans now become your fans, and boom, you're in business as long as you got something to sell. So with all that said, let me take questions and comments. If you got a question or comment, let me look. I'm live streaming on like 6 different places right now, so I'm looking at each one of them one at a time. Alonzo over on YouTube, appreciate it. Leo said, how do you develop elite handles? Go to hoophandbook.com. hoophandbook.com. That's my basketball training website. We still got it to this day. Over on Facebook, I didn't see anything. You got something on Instagram, post it, and I'm going to do TikTok right now. If you got a comment on TikTok, let me address it right now, and then we'll go over to IG. Topic here today is the permission economy is over. We're now in the collaboration economy. You don't need permission anymore. All you got to do is put yourself out there. Kalima, you said you miss working with me. Well, come to Work on Your Game University. We still out there. We still exist. Deanna said collaboration era is now. That is 100%. That's the truth. Accountants. So speaking of accountants, I know people who work in the financial space, accountants, mortgage people, real estate people, financial advisors. Those are all opportunities for collaboration, which you probably know. But I work with some people in the finance space, so I talk to them about that all the time. Matty, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. By the way, anybody want to work with me directly is workonyourgameuniversity.com. And yes, Yo-Yo, you got it right. That was the name. Anybody wondering what that name was, that person I mentioned that when I put that video on TikTok, they took it down, is Yo-Yo got it in the comments. That guy who does videos with his shirt off and he has a brother and they keep seizing all his cars and all that stuff. That guy. So y'all know who I'm talking about. So Millionaire Broker says, what's your TikTok about? You're like a businessman, so I'm listening. Well, my company is called Work on Your Game Millionaire Broker. What we're all about is taking the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports game, translating them over to the business game and the personal game to help people perform at their highest level, do so consistently, and produce results. That's our bottom line. Performance, consistency, results. And we just take the principles that work in sports, because my background is in sports, and we apply it to business, because now I'm in business. So that's what we do. Thank you for asking. Mama G says, leaving the corporate world, need to tap into this, need to access. Well, there you go. Mama G, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Is the link in my bio on TikTok. I'm talking to TikTok commentators here. The link in my bio is Work on Your Game University. That's where you can take the next step with us. Millionaire Broker, 100%. Leonski said, art can't be replaced. AI has tried to turn the poor on the rich. Yes, so that's another thing. I didn't even mention that, but you're right about that. That a lot of art work is being done by AI these days. Depends on what type of art we're talking, but I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. That the paintings that you see in a museum nowadays, you can have AI make something that looks like that, and most people, the untrained eye, wouldn't know the difference. So that's a big challenge for the art world. I don't know much about the art world, but I do get what you're saying. I appreciate that, Millionaire Broker. Going into my morning meeting, start to follow, see what you're talking about. All right, appreciate that. Thank you. Creative Kamante says, what's the most important thing in starting a new business? Getting a customer. That's a great question, and there's your answer. Most important thing you need to do when you start a business is get a customer. That's what business is. Business means somebody's giving you money for a product or a service. So there's a whole lot of other things you can do. The most important thing you need to do is get somebody to give you money. Once someone gives you money, you are officially in business. Robertson says, any suggestions for a beginner who is at ground zero to begin, who to collaborate with? Well, it depends on what you're offering, but just what I just told Creative Kamante, get a customer. So the first thing is, what are you selling and who you want to sell it to? Those are the first 2 questions you got to ask yourself. What are you selling and who are you selling it to? Or a better question is, who do you want to help? How do you want to help them? That's another way of saying it, because that's another form. Helping them is you're going to sell them something so that you can help them. So like Leo over here on YouTube asked me, how do I develop elite handles? Those of you don't understand that language, he's talking about dribbling a basketball. So if I said, I want to help up and coming basketball players who want to get better at basketball, that's my audience. That's who I want to help. And that's how I'm going to help. I'm going to help them get better. I'm long as I've had the ability, now I can start making videos on YouTube and TikTok about how to get better. People see me and they say, okay, this guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to follow him. They follow me for a while. And then I say, hey, well, I have programs and services to sell to you. Click this link, and they click the link and they go buy my stuff. That's literally what I did on YouTube starting in 2005. I just put a bunch of videos out to show people I knew my stuff. Eventually, they start to know me, like me, and trust me. And then I start selling products. I didn't start selling products till I was online for 5 years. Now, I wouldn't take that long if I was starting today because, again, things changed. But back then, I was putting content out for 5 years for free before I sold anything. So when I started selling, I already had an audience. They already knew who I was. They already knew what I was about. So when I started selling, my product started selling immediately because I already built up the know, like, and trust factors. So that's a big part also. That's a good thing that social media is useful for, is you can get people to know you, like you, trust you, because they get to sample your stuff for free. Like I'm doing right now. You're sampling my material for free. You don't have to pay anything. All you got to do is pay attention. Just listen to what I'm saying. Or I like this guy. I don't like this guy. I'm feeling what he's saying. I'm not feeling it. People can make a decision. And that's good for me as well, because now I know the people who are still following, they already got a pretty good idea who I am, and they're following. That means they like what they saw, which means if you take the next step, you're already kind of warmed up. Whereas if I just was to put an ad out and you watch a 1 minute ad and then you clicked on the link, you might not quite know if you like me or not, because you only got 1 minute. But if you listen to me right now, this live's been going for 51 minutes. I'm giving you a pretty good test drive of what I'm about. All right. So that's the good thing about social media. The accepted price is free. You put your material out for free. Let the people who like it, and the people who don't like it, don't like it. And then if people want to take the next step, you have to have a next step, you offer it to them, and then they can go and do the next thing. So this is how I got on, by the way, for those of you who are, you're hearing me for the first time. How I got on was through social media. If you want to include YouTube and social media, that's how I got on. I just put out free stuff for free. And then people liked it. And then they said, well, what else how can I go further with you? Not everybody's going to want to do that. Understand, some people just want to get the free stuff and that's all they want. But there are some people who are going to say, how can I go further? I'm willing to go further. What's the next step? And as long as you have a next step, you can send them to the next step. And whatever that next step is, usually it's something that involves a financial exchange. That's how you can set up your business. And as you can see, people do this on social media all day. Right? And again, they just put their stuff out. And then they'll say, oh, well, I have a book, I have a course, I have a program, I have a coaching, I have a conference coming up, I have a whatever. Sometimes it might be free, and they'll bring you up what we call the value adder. So they'll start you at something low and then bring you up. But some people go straight to the top. However you want to do it. There's a lot of different ways these things can be done. I coach people on this stuff, by the way, in case you can't tell. So this is kind of stuff that I talk about all day, every day with entrepreneurs and professionals. And if you go to that link in my bio, workonyourgameuniversity.com, you'll see plenty of testimonials, case studies, feedback of people who we either are actively working with or have worked with in the past from all different backgrounds. So we're talking, athletes who transition into entrepreneurship, people who transition from being in the government to being entrepreneurs, people who've gone from corporate to entrepreneurship, people who are still in corporate, who came to us for help, maybe on more of the personal side of things or the soft skill stuff, like dealing with their staff and people like that. People who work military contracting, former people who've been on the boots on the ground, military, active duty individuals, people who are just starting out their businesses, is just trying to figure out how to begin, like that question that the person asked me a minute ago, Robertson, questions like that. Like, how do I just get started with this stuff? We work with all different types of people because, again, our principles come from what worked in the sports world for me, and we've created a whole system that translates that stuff from the court to the business world. And this is why we have such a broad audience of people from so many different places. Another reason is because my audience used to be a bunch of basketball players, because that's all I was talking about my first 5 years online. I started talking about mindset around 2010. And then I started talking more about business around 2015. And that's what I've been doing since then. So almost 10 years, I've been talking about mindset and business. So that's why we have such an eclectic collection of people in our audience, because of my background and things that I've done. So, all right, I was supposed to just be answering questions now. Oh, let me get to Instagram. I didn't need to do Instagram. Millionaire said I just did a business seminar. All right, that's what's up. Robert says I'm in financial services, taxes, and insurance, and you want to help us. And he said, how do you get your following up to be able to go live? That you had to ask TikTok. I didn't know there was a certain amount. Maybe it's like 100. I think it might be 100 followers. I don't know what it is, but TikTok will tell you that. You can probably just Google that. You'll get an answer relatively quickly. How many people you got to have before you can go live. So over on Instagram, I don't think I had any comments. Oh, yeah, we got a couple. Clara, LOEC, appreciate it. You know who I was talking about? All right, glad you got value out of that. Crespo Realty, what's going on? D Fears, good morning. Good to see you again. All right, I didn't see any other comments on Instagram. And by the way, while I'm going through this, we do these lives every weekday, Monday through Friday, starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes I start a little bit after 8, but between 8 o'clock and 8:30, we start these lives every Monday through Friday. So any of you who got value from this, you like to hear me talk about other things. Oops, I just cut off my Instagram live by accident. Hope I didn't lose it. Okay, so if you want to hear these lives on a consistent basis, again, it's just Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. And sometimes we start maybe 8:15, maybe 8:20, but somewhere between 8 o'clock and 8:30, we start these lives Monday through Friday. So any of you want to get the value from this on a consistent basis, whether we're talking mindset, business, or anything in between, that's what happens. Crespo Realty, glad you got value out of it. Thank you. All right, so you need 1K. All right, Goyo got said you need 1K to go live. All right, that makes sense. Sounds about right. So you need 1,000 followers on TikTok to go live. I would suggest if you want to get to 1,000 followers on TikTok, just publish more often. That's all we did. We publish on TikTok like, I don't know, 6 times a day. Now to do that, you need enough content to do it. I got plenty of content, though. I got like 20 years worth of content in the vault. We got more content than we have space to publish. I could publish 20 times a day if I wanted to, but I think that might be overkill. So, but I would say for TikTok specifically, this doesn't apply to all apps, but on TikTok, I would just publish more often, just on a consistent basis. That's all we did. And you see on TikTok, I don't even follow anybody on TikTok. I don't even scroll on TikTok. I don't do anything. We just publish. I do these lives and that's it. I don't know what else is going on TikTok, but we just publish more often and our numbers, our followers start to go up. I don't really pay too much attention to social media metrics generally. I just publish consistently and that's what happened. My assistant actually was the one who suggested that I use TikTok to go live because I've never been a big user of the app myself. All right, everybody. So let me wrap this up because I'll talk all day. As y'all can see, I like doing this. This is my, I'll tell y'all one last thing before we go, is that I tell entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs, is that you got to find out what your money skills are. You have to identify your money skills, or what I call your $1 million skills, even if you didn't make $1 million from it yet. But these are the skills that if you could make $1 million, they're the ones that could do it. Usually, most people have 1 or 2. Sometimes you might have 3. If you're super talented, you might have 3. Most people have 1 or 2. So for me personally, my money skills are speaking and writing. Those are the things that I do best. So I can talk all day. That's, as you can see, why I keep talking here. I could talk all day. That's what I like doing, talking to audiences like you all virtually, talking to audiences in person, like on a stage, like doing a TED Talk, or talking to an individual person, such as coaching. Those are the things that I do best. And then the other thing is writing. So this is why I got all these books. You see these books behind me. These are my books. So those are my skills. And ideally, my life and business want to be set up so that I'm doing as much of this as possible because these are the things I do best, and then have other people or software or tools doing everything else. That's how you want to set your life up. And then you look at other people, they have their money skills. So let's say somebody like LeBron James, what's his money skill? Playing basketball. All right. Now he has other things that he likes. I wouldn't consider them money skills, but he likes them, like podcasting or whatever else he does. But basketball is his main thing because his ability to play ball is what led to the opportunity to do everything else. Right. And it's the same thing for you. What are your best skills? You need to know what they are, the things that you do best, that you're really good at, that the market will pay you for, meaning people are willing to give you money to do it, and you actually enjoy it. As be all 3. So just because you can make money doing something, if you don't like it, you probably don't want to build your business around it. I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school. I know how to make the fries and make a cheeseburger, but I don't like it. So I wouldn't build a business around it. So what is it for you? You need to figure that out. And then you structure your business so that you're doing that as much as possible. And then you want to leverage those skills to create more opportunities to do it. So the reason I like doing these lives is because this is one of the things that I do best. And it also opens me up to new people. So some of you never heard of me before you heard this live today. And you're like, oh, I like this guy. That's the point. That's the goal. That's success to me, is that There are people here who never heard me before, but you're listening to me today and you're like, that's great. Or you heard of me before, but maybe something I said today made you say, oh, I'm going to go a little bit further. I heard them 5 times before, but this one actually pushes you over the ledge to where, over the threshold, so to speak, to where you want to take the next step. And some people it takes longer. Some people, they're ready to do it the first day. So that's the reason why you got to keep putting your work out there, folks. I've been putting content online since 2005 and I never had anything really go viral the way y'all consider. I never had anything go viral, but I just been consistent. That's the game. All right. So let me wrap this up, because as I just told you, I talk all day. So someone said, how do I become all-day speaker? Practice is one thing. Knowing your subject is another thing. Caring about the subject is another one. And preparation ahead of time. All of those things. All right, so we'll wrap this up, folks. Any of you got a question or comment from me, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com is the link in my bio, wherever this happens to be. Thank you, Crespo. Workonyourgameuniversity.com is the link in my bio, or is the pinned comment, or is the link on my profile, whatever app you happen to be on right here. Next live, guaranteed, will be Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern, or a little bit after 8. And sometimes I go live on the weekends, but that's not guaranteed. Definitely on Monday we'll be live. And the only app we're not live on right now is LinkedIn. And once I get another device, we'll add LinkedIn. Everybody have a great Friday. Go to the university. You want to work with me directly. We're out of here.